guy who helps the court with data.
As Glenn said before, the WPPA, Washington Public Courts Association, asked for this legislation. It is presently, until July 24th, which is 3 days from now, at 45 cents a thousand. Let's do some things about an IDD first of all. It's allowed for in RCW 53. You can only do 2 IDDs for eternity, forever. Okay? So if you pass one now, you've got one more shot at it. Right now, today, it's 45 cents a thousand for 6 years. That's going to change on Friday. It's going to be starting out at 15 cents the first year. The second year is 14 cents. The third year is 14 cents. The fifth year is 13 cents. It keeps on going down until it gets to 9 cents at the end of the term. Those numbers were put out by the WPPA. I'm going to say something here because I worked very hard at this. I'm the guy that went down the lobby for it with the legislature. I met with the senators and I met with everybody because it makes sense to not do 45 cents. Not only that, if you say, gee, all we need really of the 15 cents, because that's what takes effect on Friday, that we only want 5 cents, you lose 10 cents forever. So the pressure is still on the commissioners to go for the 10 cents. Many courts in Washington State right now want the full 45 cents because the pressure's on the commissioners. If we take 25 cents, we get 20 cents on the table. So what do we do when there's only 2 IDDs for eternity, forever? Now, what's that? Somebody said something? So, first of all, an IDD was just one of the mechanisms in the comp scheme to get money or revenue flowing. And so was to the gentleman that just discussed making payments for using the ramp, so is that. Taylor Shellfish, who uses that ramp 4 times a day, okay, year round, has committed $70,000 to us.
Ain't enough.
Well, you want to go down and see Bill Taylor?
I live right across the road from the boat.
From who?
The boat ramp.
I'm asking you, do you want to go down and see Bill Taylor and ask him for more?
Sure.
Glenn and I went down and we got $70,000. Maybe you could go down there and ask for $100,000. You know, we've been working hard to keep the costs down. Our architect, who built the Treasure Island Bridge, anybody's ever seen that? It's a beautiful bridge. Brand new bridge, cost $5 million that the people on Treasure Island had to pay for because it's a private bridge. Okay, now, he has volunteered to do the boat ramp and the gangway and the restroom for way less than $1 million, $1.1 million that was quoted, and the $1.1 million that it took to build the Mason Benson Lake boat ramp. Now, you have a shiny new boat ramp. We don't. Now, we also pay for roads in Spokane, which I probably will never see. And by the way, I don't use the boat ramp either. The one right here, it's 5 doors down from my house. I haven't been on that boat ramp in 3 years. It needs to be replaced.
Why?
Because it's falling apart.
I just used it last week.
Yesterday, Glenn had to go down and cut off a piece of rebar. Now, if we get sued, okay, if we get sued, our insurance is only going to take so much of it. So let's just use some common sense here. We just want to get something going for the future for the next 50 years. Any questions about the IDD? Because that's what I'm really an expert at. Yes, sir. Back.
I'd like to know why there's any incentive to do anything other than the IDD. Everything else that he talked about requires work. It requires a lot of paperwork. But if you pass a tax, that's what it is, other than a tax, you can pass a tax by 2 people raising their hand, no other intervention. Why does anybody have any idea that you're going to do anything other than that?
Because we have tried so far. Well, here's what we've done so far. We've been to the RCO twice. That process took 4 years, and we were rejected twice. The boat ramp is falling apart. We tried to levy at lift. We were thoroughly rejected on that one, especially by the people from Mason Benson Lake. Those of you who recall my face know that I gave you 2 presentations on this matter. One person told me, we're not interested in your boat ramp. I can understand that. You live there, we live here, but I paid for your boat ramp.
Now that is not true.
That is true.
The commissioners would not pass up that grant that they
they were offered, and
It's a
they
county park.
voted, and the people from Mason Lake
county
were at
park.
that meeting and tried to put a stop to it,
Stand up, please.
and our 3 commissioners voted it in. We didn't want that boat ramp change, but the commissioners of Mason County went over our heads and voted it in, so don't blame Mason Lake.
I'm not blaming Mrs. Lake, but I am going to, I know you. I'm going to bring up a point on that. You're absolutely right, okay? They force things on us that we really don't need, but the fact is the Parks and Trails and Recreation Department went to the RCO. We were there when they went down for the Union boat ramp. They appeared right after us. And the man from the Parks and Trails Department cavalierly said they wanted $750,000 to replace the Union boat ramp. And one of the people at the RCO meeting said, and what's your match? He said, well, the county's gonna match it. And that sort of, you know, I don't see where we have to do all those things. They were rejected also. They came in behind us, as a matter of fact, for the boat ramp. So the fact is that those are the facts on the IDD. That's what I was here to talk about.
We have a question right over here.
Thank you.
I'd just like to mention in the paper tonight that Bremerton is planning on putting a boat ramp in. Similar to ours, it has 2 lanes and it has a float in the middle. And I think it's coming to $465,000. So that's just a ballpark figure, just happened to come out today.
I read the article also, and part of that is being funded by the RCO and other grants.
Glenn, right here.
Yes, sir.
I'm Len Petroselli, and I'm living on Mason Lake. I am having a tough time understanding 53.25-100. It is an RCW that covered all of the monies that are spent by our so-called port commissions. When we look at it, its first paragraph says that you are to maintain with your funding and the vote of the people what you have as infrastructure at the port. The last paragraph says you have no power to ask for anything else. It says you have to have 165,000 people. I'm trying to understand why and how you could go around the vote of the people when it says plainly that you have no power to do it.
I've not read that RCW.
Well, then read it.
Okay, here it is.
So everybody using it, recovering and what have you, would pay it with their debit card or whatever. And that would go for maintenance. But if you put in restrooms, then we have to hire somebody to clean those, and this is on and on and on. And I don't feel we should get IDD stuff down our throat, but if you want to tell us a slow, methodical way of upgrading that ramp, not ripping it, destroying it, because it's got a lot of thick concrete, 10 inches, and rebar in it, but to fix it, straighten it out, and put a float out there, and let us know what it's going to cost us, I think a lot of people might go for that.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment.
My name's Diane Eden, and I live on Stretch Island. We don't use the boat ramp. I have a question. The state of Washington charges tolls on their bridges. Why can't the people that use the boat ramp pay a toll for the use of the boat ramp?
My name is Harley Summers.
And I can assure you that an IDD is intended for the most desperate situation. It does not exist in Grapeview at the present time. It was designed for a place like Detroit, Michigan, where there had been industry and it all moved out, and there was no way to revive it other than having an IDD. The people here do not want an IDD because what you're asking us to do is to give you a blank check for every damn thing you can dream up, and we do not want that.
Any more comment?
Just one more comment.
We have a repeat over on this side.
Microphone, I don't want to hold it. Evidently, I started electricity, and I apologize.
You're the one who wants to be the
No, sir.
from.
But all I
It's
keep
Vincent.
hearing are Band-Aids. All I hear are Band-Aids. Whether we have monitoring for boats going in and out, the ramp's gonna wear out, it's gonna cost money. Everything's gonna cost more money. The gentleman over here moved out here because he didn't want all the change. I agree. But there's people already on fixed incomes right now. I'm not one of them, lucky. I'm not quite retired. I have 5 more years. I'll be 62 and I'll be ready to retire. But those people on fixed incomes, every time you take a little bit of their money, and the county takes a little bit, and your analogy where we all paid in the county for one boat ramp, and now we're charging 1,000 houses for one boat ramp, is not a very good analogy to keep throwing our face. That we all paid for the Mason Benson and the other analogy with hundreds of thousands of homes. But everything we're talking about is a Band-Aid. Nobody's coming up with a long-term solution for economic growth. The boat ramp is to make it convenient for people here in their boats. And it's nice for Taylor Sailfish, and I think we should find a way to support that. I'm not disagreeing. But again, the value of this property is the value of Grapeview. And if everybody doesn't want to keep paying taxes, we've got to do something else. We can't keep saying, I don't want to raise taxes, but I want this. If we need a new fire engine, if we sell a portion of this, we can buy a new fire engine. If we need to build a new school, whatever the port's responsible, we don't have to keep having these tax increases. Why are we holding on to $700 million of property?
Buckle Teal has a $15 every time you launch your boat fee. What's wrong with that?
It's this won't pay it back faster for them to have the bond to fund it. It's a great idea. Okay.
Okay, so Phil Wolf, I live at 7300 Grapeview Loop Road. Okay, so if I understand this correct, there have been no changes to the draft plan. Okay, so there was no mention of a water system in the plan, or water rights, so that was mentioned 3 or 4 times at meetings, so we're not entertaining that.
It's part of the plan.
Yeah, I didn't see pursue water rights in the plan.
But you did see Glenn Church's name in there, didn't you?
I saw that we're going to buy 20 acres on a residential property.
We are going to buy, that isn't what it said, Phil. No. It's part of the plan. It doesn't mean we're going to go out next year or 2 years from now and write a check for $200,000 for a piece of property that has water rights.
Well, I know, but it was specifically, you had 3 different meetings, and in mailings to the port people, you mentioned water rights, and water rights was not mentioned in the plan.
We wanted to look at the idea of water rights to find out if it makes any sense, to see what the value of the property. Without the water rights, the value of the property goes way down.
Okay, so we're not pursuing water rights. Okay, there was at the one meeting we had to comment on the plan, somebody brought up fiber optics. Was there any thought about putting that? Being able to have fiber optics for people or companies here?
I met with the PUD about that, and the upfront cost for fiber optics was way beyond what we could do. So the whole idea fell flat. So fiber optics was not even put in the comp plan.
Okay, and then I was at the Port of Allen meeting, and I also, when I mentioned about the possibility of merger and different ideas, the folks at Port of Allen. I also heard folks that were there were also interested in fiber optics. I guess, and one item that concerns me is that there was a bond attorney here. So it wouldn't necessarily be paid as the project goes. You could bond against 18 years of future revenue and get one pile of money. So just wanted to mention that. Okay. Again, I'd like to echo what I heard before. I think there are many of us here would like a decent, I would like a safe boat ramp to use, but to be looking at purchasing property when we already have vacant land that has sat for 20 years, I'm not sure.
Thanks, Bill. One more, and we'll adjourn the meeting. Yes, ma'am.
You've actually maybe hired someone who is a professional grant writer that knows how to do it and knows how to word it, because it can make a huge difference.
You're absolutely correct. But to answer your question, no, we have not pursued asking anyone or putting anybody under contract to write grants. We don't have the money for it.
Wait a minute.
If there's somebody out here that does that sort of thing, please step up. We're looking for volunteers because it doesn't cost us anything. One more. Okay, Bob, 3 minutes.
Bob Allen, Grapeview, one of your former commissioners who was absolutely against an IDD since 1990. Some years ago, around 1992, the port asked the community in a meeting about what the community wanted to do regarding IDD, and overwhelmingly, to a point of almost being run out of town on a rail, the community said no IDD, and your port heard you. This community even asked when we tabled it indefinitely, which parliamentary ends it. They asked us to make the motion, make the second, and vote it down, and we did. At the request of the community. I'd like to see the same thing happen here. However, 2 things. One, the gentleman from Mason Lake is correct. That is the law that the governor signed. It is 45 cents per thousand. There is an option to go up to 20 years with a magic formula of 20 years, it's 18 cents, and it goes downward since then. About every other year, it drops about a penny. Bob has the exact formula for 20 years. However, that means we're going to be paying that amount of money for 20 years, or we're going to be paying 45 cents per thousand in addition to the 3.5 cents we got now for 6 years. Last and least is the fact that the public hearing was not a legal hearing. It missed a publication date. I know that their commissioners think that they have been told by a telephone call from a state, I don't even think it was a state attorney, but they have not run anything past their own port attorney to see if it's correct or appropriate for this community and this port. I would like to see the IDD shelved and the idea totally forgotten about. We can, if there is finally a plan, a good one, a well thought out one, for replacement, repair of this boat launch ramp, if that's what we want. We also have a stormwater runoff thing to take care of too. But if that's what we want, that's what the port should be putting forth to us, so that we could then consider any kind of a levy lid lift to give them the money to do that as a matching fund. This port has written 2 grants and was successful at both. One was for repairs to the boat ramp in about 1993, and that was through FEMA after the big storm. And then there was a RCO grant that we won that actually built that parking lot, paid for the land, paid for the development. And your tax dollars have gone to keep that in good maintenance, as long as the Port Commission will actually do the work or hire it done.
Okay, Bob, that's 3 minutes. about it for now. I'd like to, one other thing, we would like to get as many emails as we can. We publish a monthly newsletter. We'd love to have as many as possible, get the word out and be as upfront with people as we possibly can. We can't do that without more emails. We have about 175 now, but I know there's a lot more out there that we could.
Could you give us a history of that law, that IDD law? Because I understand when that was first introduced, it was to bail out the Port of Seattle for their materials.
Well, I'd like at this point to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Whoa!
All in favor?
Hold it!
What is that?
People want to talk, for God's sake.